If you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm very much into vocal synthesis. And if you don't, well, I'm very much into vocal synthesis. And this usually includes vocoders, voice doublers, harmonizers, and in at least one case, an auto-tuning plugin. Yeah, I am so much in love with things you can do with your voice to make it sound like a synthesizer. And MicDrop gives me a new avenue to explore. I want to make this very much clear. It's not because
this plugin can make me sound like this, or that it can make me sound like
this. Even though, I gotta admit, if I could talk like this on a regular basis, I probably would.
In any case, the thing that I like about MicDrop isn't that I can sound like other humans. No, it's for the weird shit it lets me do. First of all,
The speak and spell. I mean, come on. I just love this so much. This sounds like a really, really weird vocoder.
Or how about this effect? This is so hard to synthesize, but here they've done a pretty good job at it, and there's no disgusting tube you have to clean afterwards. This is also pretty dope. Wow, chicken, wow, wow.
Wow, but this? I've always wondered what it would sound like.
and this made me realize the possibilities for a plugin like this. And that's why I'm starting to fall in love with the concept of MicDrop, but I haven't completely fallen in love with it yet. Alright, so some important things first. MicDrop is a freemium app, meaning you download it for free from the App Store and you can try it out. And then you have in-app purchases where you can unlock voice profiles. Now, there are subscription models in here, and I already know how my community feels about subscriptions, and you don't have to go for those because there are perpetual licenses inside the app. If you just want to buy singular voices for $1 a pop whenever you want to, you can go that route. Or you can unlock 16 base models all at once for $25, or you can unlock all of it and do a one-time purchase of $59 and you'll have all 80 plus voices. The next very important thing I want to bring up is that MicDrop is not using cloud processing. That is a huge plus in my book. It's doing it all locally on the device, so there's no more subscriptions there either for you to have to process any audio. It's all being done on your machine. Now, the issue with this is that if you're not using an M5 machine, you're not going to get real-time processing. Instead, you'll have to rely on post-processing, and that's what I've been doing. I've got an iPad Pro 12.9-inch with an M2 processor. Again, I want to make this absolutely clear. M chips are mandatory, and M5s are the only ones that will give you optimal performance. Now, you also need a DAW and/or AUV3 host that supports multi-core processing. Without it, you're not going to have a good experience because you're only going to get audio glitches and audio pops and stutterings. And so that means that your list of DAWs and AUV3 hosts isn't that long. But chances are, from this list, there are probably a lot of you who already own at least one of these DAWs and/or AUV3 hosts, or you're already working with them. One good bet is Logic. That is not something I work with, but the guys from Soundlabs.ai have been testing MicDrop with Logic a lot, so it's a surefire bet of getting something that works with MicDrop. Now, the next important thing I want to bring up is I wanted to know how it was trained. The company themselves say that they're doing this ethically, and I just wanted them to spell it out, and they gave me a pretty detailed answer. Now, they do say that all of their models are trained with full consent of those involved, and also that they don't train on any copy-protected works. They also add that all of their voice models come from people directly connected with the CEO and COO, so friends, neighbors, and colleagues. They didn't scrape any data, they didn't make clones of already known artists, they didn't pull anything from the internet. They do, however, write that they include public domain sources.
I think this might actually be trained on something available in the public domain.
Now, they do write that they don't replicate real people without permission, and that they don't currently have any models that replicates real people. And another really important thing, at least for me, is the fact that none of the user audio that you put through MicDrop is being used in training their AI. So none of your voice ends up in the MicDrop plugin. Now, another thing that I really enjoy with this is there is, of course, lower energy usage with an AI tool like this because it's doing everything locally on your machine. And lastly, they end with sounding like a flagpole or a mountain is actually a crazy cool idea. And if you're wondering what the is that all about, it's because I suggested it to them. Because that's the whole thing with an AI-powered tool that can make some weird shit. Why don't you just make it all out weird? So far, so good. Looks like SoundLab has adopted a working culture where they're actually taking in people's concerns and they're trying to work after that. And they're doing all of that just to make a weird sounding voice changing plugin. And that's what I want to have a look at next. But I'm warning you, viewer, I don't want to make myself sound like another human. I'm just here for the weird shit. And if you're like me, weird as f***, then just stick around and we'll do some weird shit together. Alright, so I want to move on to sending stuff into MicDrop that isn't necessarily a human voice, but stuff like synthesizers. Let's try some drumming material next. What about actually starting to process our audio with some effects and animate them, like chorus, filters, distortion? What is so interesting with MicDrop is that even though we are trying to use it as just a vocal effect or like a vocoder or something, it definitely doesn't behave like one. There is a brain in there and it's trying to interpret the material that we're putting through it. So it's forming pseudo words, especially when the material we run through it is harmonically rich, spectrally shifting, and also when it's melodically rich, because that's how a human voice behaves. And I want to keep on playing around with that by putting a formant filter in between the material and MicDrop. As a closing statement for this part of the video, all I want to say is that I love weird, and MicDrop is weird, especially when you're sending materials into it that isn't a human voice. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff you can do with this, because if you manipulate the material just right, if you automate it just right, you could probably get some really alien sounding stuff out of here. And that's what I'll be doing. I'll just be experimenting with this thing further. I did say I did not want to use MicDrop to make myself sound like other humans, but unfortunately, I found a really good use case for MicDrop. You see, very often when I write songs with actual lyrics in them, well, I like taking my voice and pitching it down a whole octave to make it bassy, and then use bits and pieces of that to kind of bolster some of the words or phrases in my song. Now, the problems with pitched down material is that it introduces artifacts and it just ends up sounding bad sometimes. Some words don't sound that legible. You can't really hear what some are saying, and sometimes the bass becomes too bassy. So how about using MicDrop for that instead? So the first thing we're gonna need is some lyrics, and this time I'm gonna dig into a genre that lies close to my heart. I grew up listening to people like John Lee Hooker. My dad was the one that loved that type of music, and then later in my teenage years, I discovered people like Leadbelly and Blind Willie and other people like that, which is weird because I was born in '79 in a small town in Sweden, and there weren't that many people listening to that type of music around there. But yeah, somehow I found that music and I fell in love with it. But I've never felt confident enough, with my shitty singing abilities to actually pull blues off. And this is actually the best you get from me. My hands know all the changes, but my heart takes too long. I've been sitting here with the silence, trying to write myself a song. Now, I'm gonna process that with effects because when I make music, I like stuff to be dirty, gnarly, with a bite, and distorted and saturated. So yeah, we're gonna do that later on. But first, we're gonna run my voice through MicDrop and we're gonna use the truth, pitch it down an octave, and this is what we get.
Between the bars, hear the echo of our records, feel the weight of where they are. My hands know all the changes.
Now, as you can hear, we're still having some kind of artifacts in there, but it's not as if the words aren't legible. It doesn't sound at all like when you normally just pitch stuff down. So that's good. This is usable. However, it doesn't sound quite natural, not exactly like a human, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I actually like that it's rough and raw like this, but we can clean that up and hide away the imperfections if we need to with some effects or mixing. Now lastly, we also need a bit of drumming, and the drumming I did very simply with a screwdriver hitting this cheap circuit holder here from AliExpress, and also me just tapping my table with 2 fingers. Sorry for the shaky cam. The phone is actually attached to an arm that is attached to the table, and every time I hit the table, yeah. Got a blank piece of paper and a pencil worn down thin. I've been staring at these lines all night, trying to let the music in. Every word feels heavy, every rhyme feels so wrong. I'm sitting here with the silence, trying to write myself a song. I hum a tired melody, let it drift between the bars. Hear the echo of our records, feel the weight of where they are. My hands know all the changes, but my heart takes too long. I've been sitting here with the silence, trying to write myself a song. Yeah, I've been sitting here with the silence, trying to write myself a song. Well, that's all she wrote. I feel really uncomfortable having exposed my inner self like this, no autotune and everything, but yeah, this is the best I could do, and I hope it was passable enough for you guys. In any case, the most important thing here is that I got to show you a good user case for MicDrop when you want to pitch stuff down to bolster some words or whatever you want to do. Pitching down sounds good. No, I'm not gonna lie, the most interesting page for me is the instruments one, but that doesn't mean that there aren't stuff inside the voices page that doesn't interest me.
Because I do love the Linda Chase one, simply because it sounds like an old radio recording. It's like listening to the BBC back in the 60s, which is something I haven't really done because I was born in
79, but I still grew up with vinyls and tape, and that's the type of media I like more than anything else. Now, with that said, I also do want to say that
the vocoder stuff that is in here, like the vocoders, and also the robot-like voices like Cylon, they do sound really awesome, but I still prefer conventional vocoders over this.
Not too fond of this tacky one. This one just really annoys me. I just don't like voices like these.
But the silent one, oh, yeah, this one, I could do this all day.
Now, for many of you, having access to a plugin that can do
speak and spell type sounds out of your voice, well, might not be anything new. Because you might already have one of the best plugins out there, which is BitSpeak by Sonic Charge. And a few years ago, I was over at Sonic Charge here in Stockholm interviewing Magnus about his work with Teenage Engineering, working on the PO35, the speak unit. Yeah, because he put his BitSpeak in there, so that pocket operator is able to resynthesize your vocals. But on iOS, we don't have any plugins or anything like that, and I always wanted one, and now I do through MicDrop.
If you want it to sound good, you'll have to make sure you never let up and never pause at all. Especially if you do some football chants like ole, 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 ole.
the slap bass is slapping. That is so weird and so goofy.
A top box is so hard to make because you gotta emulate the tube, and that is not that easy to do, which is why we don't often see this as a plugin for our DAWs. But here they have managed to make something that sounds very talkboxy.
Now, the last one I want to highlight is this one. Normally, I would explain a lot about processing your audio before you send it into a vocal plugin, because usually vocal plugins are sensitive, and so you're gonna need to process it a bit. But the only thing I did was I added a compressor right before the plugin just to keep some of my transients and explosives in check. The rest of all the processing is done by MicDrop itself, because it turns out that it actually washes out background noise, and it does a really good job at it. Now, it also has its own gate in there so that it only picks up sound when you're actually talking or singing. Now, at the beginning here, it also has a tuning system, which you can have either auto-tune stuff when you have it set to tune, or you can flip it over to MIDI and then send MIDI to it. So you can either play a keyboard, or you could just sequence your notes and have the sequence being sent to MicDrop. And here I want to make one thing very clear. MicDrop is a mono app, one voice. Now you have your input volume over here, and you also have a wetness knob here. Now, if we jump on to the other side where we have the end of the chain, we have tuning of the app, where you can, with the combination of these buttons and this dial, go either up 3 octaves or down 3 octaves. And let me just warn you that when you go up really high or really low, the voice starts really cracking up and getting destroyed. We also have processors and effects. And if you want to do any changes in the effects, you just flip this over from voice to effects, and you have all of their individual controls over there. We got a compressor that sounds good enough, it's really smooth. We got a delay that sounds nice. The chorus sounds really warm, and the reverb has a wide range because it can go all the way from a tight vocal booth up to an open and big space. Lastly, we have the output with its volume control, got soft clipping, and that's really all you need to know, because when it comes to actually selecting your voice models, well, all you need to do is to press on this button, and here we have 2 tabs. We got the voices, and we also have the instrument-like voices. And then you just simply scroll through here and pick whatever you want to try out. There's really nothing more to it. Very few controls, very little for you that you have to do, and that in itself, for me at least, is a massive problem. But I'll talk more about that in the final thoughts section of this video. Now, my initial experience with the app was pure joy, and I was shocked over how fun and really useful some of the stuff was in here. I was expecting complete and utter AI slop, but that's not what I got. I got some stuff that I actually do want to use, and I actually do want to see them add more to the app. However, after using the app for a few days, I did recognize that it had a problem. The same type of problem that many other AI tools for music have out there. And I'll just start by saying that I have put more than 35 years into learning everything I can about synthesizers and synthesis. I've even built some myself, and I've put so much time and effort into learning how to make synths produce certain types of sounds and how to make them do what I want them to do. In any case, I love sound design. I am a maker who likes making things. And it doesn't matter whether it's videos or if it's editing audio or making music or graphics or anything. I enjoy the process of making things and everything that entails. And when it comes to sound design, I very much have to make my own sounds all the time. Whenever I don't make my own sounds, when I'm working on something, making a project, a track, anything, making a demo, if I don't make the sounds myself, I feel like a fraud. And in MicDrop, I can't do anything. You see, whenever I've selected a voice profile, that's it, it's selected. There are no controls for me where I can change how that voice is behaving. I'm not sure how you would give MicDrop any synth controls, but that is what I want. I want to be able to do some synthesis in here. I want to tweak something. Give me something, because I am not going to sit around just waiting for Soundlabs.ai to drop more voice packs. I want to be able to sculpt my own sounds. So I produced a very long ADHD info dump email and I sent it to the marketing guy over at Soundlabs.ai, and I actually got a positive response. Turns out that their CEO, which is the artist BT, probably feels the same way. I don't know for sure what's going to happen with MicDrop, but I think that this is an interesting beginning on something very, very cool. What I'm looking for my creativity isn't this one button thing that does everything automatically for me. I'm looking for things where I can put myself into it. And sure, you can put yourself into MicDrop through your own voice, what you do with it, how you talk through it, how you sing through it, the notes you play, if you control it with MIDI, if you run a guitar into it. There's so many things that you can do. But synth controls and being able to change that voice further to make it go wild, to make it do weird shit, yeah, I think that's an important part of it too, to make it feel like I'm really putting myself in there and making whatever I'm getting through it to be mine. And maybe now my complaints about the vocoder stuff in here makes sense to you, because I would rather use this, and this over this. Why? Because of all of these. Yeah, I want to be able to synthesize my vocoder sound. Now, when it comes to any other type of criticism, I can say this: MicDrop is a heavy-ass plugin. It is heavy, and it hasn't worked perfectly. I've been using it inside Cubases, where it constantly crashes, but mostly when I'm selecting new voices or flipping through them to try out new things, that's when it crashes sometimes. And Soundlabs.ai is aware of this. I have reported this bug to them, and I'm sure that many others have too, so they're working on it. In any case, as long as Soundlabs.ai sticks to what they've told us here in their email response to me, as long as they stick to that, I'm going to be fine with their product. And I don't see why many of you shouldn't try it out. For me, MicDrop is kind of like a new and weird vocoder. And if I got some synth controls in there, I'd be way more happy. Other than that, I highly recommend it. You should try it out. And if you do, I really want to hear what you do with it. You can find a link to MicDrop in the description and also in a pinned comment down below. As usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now go and finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it.
I'm sorry, John. I'm getting something here. Hello? Can't understand you. I think I'm getting some interference. Could you speak up, please?